Hello and welcome to Taking Liberties, episode 6, I think it is. My name's Lee. I'm in Western Australia. We're back after a couple of weeks of being unable to get together to have a show. So, yes, so hopefully be smooth sailing from here on. And joining me this week, of course, is Vikas,
Hey,
star subject of a compelling and thrilling article in The Australian, which he had a very excellent large picture holding a very nice coffee cup. It was glamorous.
I'm just giving the Australian readers what they want: a concerned look, a hot beverage,
Yeah,
and a wet blue business T-shirt.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, sorry, blue business shirt. What am I talking about?
Also
I'll correct
joining us
myself.
is Connor from Western Australia,
G'day,
from
everyone.
from the best part of Western Australia. Well, not quite the best part because it's Bunbury, which is that's okay. It's not as good as Busselton, but it's all right.
Westralia, Bestralia.
Yeah. All right. This week we're going to be talking about the very very excellent news about the Liberal Democrats in Western Australia winning an upper house seat. We're also going to talk about 18C, the Racial Discrimination Act. Ongoing debate and changes, and potentially, well, we there might actually be some movement on that. We might actually see it pass. And we're also going to talk about penalty rates and impact on government finances. So let's talk first about the Legislative Council. So 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we had a election in Western Australia, and it was a pretty solid drubbing for the Liberals. We now have a Labor Premier. But in the upper house, we had some pretty good news with the Liberal
Well
Democrats.
deserved.
Yeah,
It was a
well,
well deserved trumping. Yeah,
oh yeah,
I
no,
think we said yeah, yeah.
it was in the immortal words of Ben Folds, is the battle of who could care less, and Colin Burnett lost bad. So yes, he did deserve it. I'm not sure Mark McGowan is going to be any better, but we'll find out since he's now Premier for 4 years.
Well,
Well,
we
theoretically for
yeah.
4 years.
I can't remember his last name, but it's Aaron. What's his last name?
Aaron Stonehouse.
Stonehouse, yeah.
Stonehouse. Yeah, yeah. So he's one of the people that holds the balance of power in the new crossbench for their MLC. So we might get to see some good policies come through, maybe.
Well, that's you got to be in it to have an influence, and yeah, look, best placed. I mean, of course, could be better, could have more, but we've got someone in a parliament which requires some crossbench support, and I mean, it's us, it's shooters and fishers, and it's One Nation which forms the crossbench essentially. So as far as likely candidates as people who Labor can work with, yeah, we're pretty well placed.
Yeah, so the layout of the council has 36 seats. The Labor has 14. The Labor Party has 14. Liberals have 9. National and Greens both have 4 each. So theoretically, you could pass. Well, once you add a speaker in, I guess, like as long as it's not a Labor speaker or Green speaker, they'll have enough seats to pass, just between those two. And yeah, Liberals, Nationals, that's 13. One Nation, they've got 3, so that takes it to 16, and then Shooters and Fishers could pair up with Liberal Democrats to pass stuff as well, or to block stuff. So it's interesting. Nationals lost, so Liberals lost 8, and Nationals lost 1. So both the Conservative side got hammered. One Nation picked up 3, which I guess is the biggest change of them all.
And rightly so. I remember us having this discussion before the election, was that the West Australian Conservatives were really just Labor light, and this is a telling story, I guess, for Malcolm Turnbull. If you're just going to be Labor light, people are just going to vote Labor, because
Well, no,
why would you go halfway?
I mean, the Nationals are probably more. I mean, they've been agricultural socialists,
Which is Labor light.
which is Labor light. Liberals have just been, let's spend more money. So the thing about Colin Biden is he really didn't have any sort of ideological vision. Like, I think he's just kind of a middle of the road conservative. Well, sort of like a moderate, really. He's not even really conservative. I mean, probably the most sort of conservative he got was when it came to anything to do with the war on drugs. It's always, well, let's spend more money fighting ICE. But that's kind of everybody at the moment. So, yeah, he wasn't really sort of a chest-thumping conservative. Yeah.
But he was Labour light, effectively. That's my term for this. It's
Sure. I guess. I mean,
it,
I don't know. I mean, I think it's more of a bipartisan consensus on spending rather than the Liberals being like Labor. I think he was actually being like what the Liberals were most of the time, which is let's just spend more money. I mean, if you accept the assumption that Liberals stand for small government, well then yeah, he is Labor light. But I don't accept that as a presumption. I think they just.
I have no reason. See, here's the thing. I try to be fair and accept people for what they say, right? And use that as the measuring stick for how to judge those people, right? So that's why I'm harsher on the Liberals, right? When they don't do small government things, than on Labor for not doing small government things, because Labor never says they're small government.
Sure.
Anytime they're small government, it's incidental.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess at this stage it's hard to know what the impact will be for Liberal Democrats, like tie vote, because there's no real sort of legislative agenda for the Labor. So basically, this entire election has been mostly about infrastructure. So the Row 8 is an extension to a highway that's very controversial. It's going through some wetlands. The Greenies and Labor hate it. So the Labor's against Row 8, and they wanted to build train lines. And the Liberals are for privatising the port, the Fremantle port, and building Row 8. And that's kind of it. Like, it was really about those things. It wasn't like there is...
Let's also not
forget
that. Yeah, privatisation of Western Power also played in. That's true. That was a fairly big one this election.
But that hadn't started yet. So that would have happened if the Liberals had won, and I guess even if they just meant, I mean, they got completely drilled. Like they're down to 15 seats. So if by some miracle they managed to hold on in the House, in the Legislative Assembly, which is the lower house, and they had this outcome, I guess theoretically you'd need the Liberal Democrats to pass that. But One Nation's against privatisation. Basically, everybody's against privatisation except Liberal Democrats and the Liberals. Everybody else was against it, so I guess that would have been dead in the water as well. But yeah, like aside from that, I mean, there's no... it's not like, okay, this is going to be the policy for schools. I mean, even something like, which is surprising, so we've had this program called the Independent School System, which is essentially giving more autonomy to schools to set, not to set their budgets and how they spend their budgets. And I think it's been an okay system. Like, it hasn't... I think the teacher unions are kind of against it, but, probably not to the extent that it's actually affected the... I didn't hear any campaign about that at all. So,
No.
I guess maybe that is a possible change if the unions get their way. They might want to have more of a say, less autonomy for schools. But, I mean... Yeah.
No, typically for those kind of things, they don't want to argue them as election points. It's kind of like with the Country Fire Association in Victoria. They'll tend to do it. Once they get them in, they'll tend to do it as a standard, change within the organisation.
Yeah.
That way, people have to really debate in the public to bring it back to the opposite. Sorry, to bring it back to the norm.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's sort of... Somebody's got a lot of background noise.
Yeah, good question. Who is it? Is it me?
I don't know.
Said quite.
I think it is you, Vikas.
Yeah,
is
because
me.
you're the blue outline is.
We blame you.
Yeah.
Okay, so has it gone down now?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
So yeah, I guess at this stage it's hard to know what impact Aaron will have. It's a good thing though, because I think one of the things which one of the issues of having just David as the sole senator, the sole parliamentary representative for the Liberal Democrats, is that his kind of
Grumpy.
His personal kind of character ends up defining what the Liberal Democrats stand for. So I think I might have said it here. I've definitely said it outside of the podcast. Is it would have been great if Gabe Buckley had won in Queensland, because then you would have had two very different personalities with a shared kind of vision of how government's supposed to be. So it wouldn't have just been the grumpy, sweary guy all about cats and guns from New South Wales. It would have been, the guitar playing, country, like a
pot smoking.
pot smoking bikie guy from
Yeah.
Queensland.
Who's also into cats and guns.
Well, yes, sure, but like not in the same way that David is. So, like, it's good having Aaron around. I've never met him. I presume Connor has. Maybe you can tell us a bit about him in a sec. But yeah, like, I think it's just great that we've got this other voice for, what will be pretty much a consistent policy approach across the board. I think, if anybody in the Liberal Democrats wins, I think you're generally going to see very similar sorts of things because, that's what libertarianism is like. So,
Yep.
So you want to tell us a bit about him, Connor?
Yeah, so we're continuing the tradition of electing straight white males, as we as we keep getting reminded.
You got to get Vikas to run.
Yes,
Because
we're going to get.
he's the diversity officer, so I guess that
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
quite make him
diverse.
straight. It makes him something else. Because that would be improper to have a straight.
Well,
person as
actually,
the
I think
diversity
it's
officer.
gender diversity. I can't remember now. It was,
Something. Anyway, we've had this conversation 3 times every time I'm on.
Yeah.
So Aaron, he's IT middle management. I didn't talk too much about his job, more about his just more of his personal stuff, and he's a one of the very few Christians in the LDP. The rest of us are all fedora-tipping atheists. No, he's a very well-rounded young guy. He's 26 years old, seems to have his life together fairly well, likes
So
all
basically,
the
you're saying he's not an autist. Is that what you're trying to assuage,
the jury's still out. Oh, no, mate.
Okay.
It comes with the territory. LDP, I mean, it's like Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland. You must be crazy. You're here after all. I'll butcher that. Yeah.
no, come on. It's not all autism.
Not all the time, anyway. Keep going, Connor.
Yeah. Anyway, so no, he's talked to me about his passions with what he'd like to do, what he'd like to have the biggest impact upon. He realises he won't be able to get much done on his own, but he'll certainly stand up for things like firearms rights. He's talked to me, come to me about low taxes and business regulations because he experiences that firsthand, and trying to do his best to work against the drug criminalisation in Western Australia. And in that regard, I mean, we can. I mean, I'm sure when it comes to firearms, the Greens won't be too happy, but the Greens are making noises and are even showing things like methamphetamines on their advertising. So look, we'll work as much as we can with all sorts across this parliament. I'm not too sure the major parties are big so keen on guns and drugs, but actual effective stuff which Aaron will be able to do, fairly minimal. But I don't think Ron Paul ever actually swayed too much. He was, in terms of actually getting
But
stuff.
he grew the movement.
In terms of getting stuff done, Ron Paul's an abysmal failure. In terms of being a consistent voice for never voting for a tax increase, never voting for a decrease in individual liberty. I mean, he one-man band pretty much turning the American Libertarian Party into the mighty political force that it is today. So, yeah, look, I've got the best hopes for Aaron Stonehouse, and especially with the new team which we've got in Western Australia, really, really pretty keen about what's going to happen. At the very least, he'll be there. He's got a person in Parliament. He's got the bump seat. He won't affect too many bills. He won't affect too much in terms of concrete stuff. But I mean, what he will do for Western Australia, what he will do for libertarianism in the Australia, New Zealand, Australo-Asian region, I think it's going to be a great boon. It's small steps, but this is it. This is the first one. The first state, member of local council. That's great.
I feel like we should get him on this podcast.
Yeah.
It'd be good.
I guess one of the other great, really encouraging things about the election was that in South Metro, the primary vote was 4% for the Liberal Democrats, which is really unusual sense from what I could see else in the other sort of upper house areas, because basically the upper house is broken down by regions. It was like 1%.
Yeah.
So I guess it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2021, whether that's maintained. You know, if there's for some reason a solid 4% vote in South Metro for Liberal Democrats, that's a great. That's that's always going to be a sort of contestable area. So yeah,
Well,
it was actually quite unusual that the Liberal Democrats because we use the same sort of sorting system as the Senate, the Australian Senate, where Aaron actually came in 5th, not 6th, because usually it's like Liberal, Labor, 1 to 4, and then usually the last 2 are like Greens or Nationals or whoever. Aaron came in 5th, which is a really good result in the South Metro area.
Yeah, being looking at it from an objective standpoint, it is about Aaron got in just as David initially got in due to good placement on the ballot and very good preferencing, but with that, it's to have it happen once. Okay, that's luck, but to then get re-elected, that's the test. And David Leyonhjelm did get re-elected. Now,
but on a double dissolution election.
Yes, on double dissolution, but he still got elected. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Aaron has not yet sat a single day in Western Australian Parliament thus far, but 4 years out from now, we will see if Aaron gets re-elected or we get more people elected. So the proof of the pudding will be in the eating.
Indeed. All right, well, let's maybe move on to talking about 18C. So.
Sure. The topic that always brings people here.
So seems like it's borderline. So you guys probably got it as well, but the Tim Andrews at the Australian Taxpayers Alliance put out a big thing, a message to everybody saying that Nick Xenophon's on the borderline of supporting the 18C changes. I don't know if that actually gets it across the line. I can't imagine it.
Well, it gives some of the numbers in the Senate, which might give them the confidence to push for it. The problem is, so it's actually Labor shooting themselves in the foot at this stage. I don't think 18C is actually that, like in the common public, the debate is about effectively whether racists can say whatever they want or not. The debate that's being had in Parliament is more about what Gillian Triggs was actually suggesting, right? So nothing the Liberals are doing is talking about the repeal of 18C. No. They're just talking about implementing what Gillian Triggs herself suggested at the Senate, Senate hearing in November 2016? I think it was. People can check that. But like around November, she was pulled in front of the Senate, and she basically made a couple of statements. She's relating to the QUT case. What's his name? Abetz basically asked her, how did this case get through your department? Because the process of 18C requires them to arbitrate these cases, and she basically made the comment that they are forced by the current legislation to basically allow these cases through. Now, I don't think that's actually right. I think she's actually wrong about that because there's tons, and one of the biggest statements that the defenders of 18C bring up is that the vast majority of 18C complaints are knocked back by the AHRC in the first place. So I have no idea what she was talking about. I'm pretty sure they already have the power to knock them back. But one of her more sensible suggestions was to change from insult and offend to vilify. Now, I think they're picking a weaker test than that by picking harassment, but it's still a change away from insult and offend. So, you won't see your QUT-like cases even come before them, allegedly. I mean, that's what they think.
Harass is still pretty weak. So.
Yeah, it is. That's why I think they should have adopted her suggestion, which is go for vilify, because that's a much stronger test. And I
vilify is also kind of it's also a fair bit more testable than harass, because harass is
anybody can get an AVO.
I think you can harass even with a single comment or a single whatever.
Yeah, you can harass. Like that's why AVOs are generally pretty easy to get. And the thing is, the original drafters of 18C themselves have also said that this needs to be changed, right? Everybody who was involved in the bill making, right, or is currently prosecuting with that bill, is saying that that 18C itself isn't doing what it was intended to do, and right now it is spilled over into basically, was the term political monitoring? I think it was. it was in an ABC article where they were talking about the original drafter of the bill themselves was suggesting.
What was intended? What was the actual aim of it? Was it just to stop people going, let's hang Aboriginals, or was it?
No, the original intent of it was actually to stop Holocaust deniers.
I didn't
Yeah, it
know.
has. Yeah. It was basically to cut back on Holocaust denial in popular media coverage. It has nothing to do with how it's being used now.
Yeah. Well,
But it's
that's
yeah.
every government program ever.
Yeah, it's just like when the government introduced that bill where they could repeal people's citizenship,
Yep.
right? It was originally intended to basically kick.
Terrorism.
Yeah, it wasn't about terrorism. It was originally intended to kick Nazi war criminals back to The Hague.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And now it's used for terrorism. So there's a lot of laws that sit in our books. This is why we need repeal days, because these laws sit in the or sunset clauses. I'd be happy with either. But like these laws sit in the books, they warp and they become part of our culture in a weird way. So these laws were not intended in a way of political monitoring as it is right now. And the other thing is, Labor's arguments have been spurious at best. So they've been saying something along the lines of, unless you've experienced racism, you can't comment on 18C. And I'm sitting there going, and I actually had someone who's a Labor supporter tell me this in real life after I'd been in the Oz, talking about my experience. And I'm just, and this was my face. I'm just looking there with like the most deadpan expression going, are you fucking serious?
Yeah, but Vikas, you're not saying the right words, so you're not a real brown guy that suffered racism. You're a fake brown guy.
You don't even have the
You're an
accent.
Uncle Tom, and
Uncle Tom.
whatever
To tell you,
version of Uncle Tom is.
Uncle Raj.
Yeah, right, yeah.
No, but I actually have been called a race traitor before on lefty groups, and quite frankly, I sit there and go like, they don't even know what they're arguing anymore, right? They're just saying it's there to stop the racists when everyone who was involved in writing the law, who was involved in prosecuting this law, everyone in the expertise of this particular law is saying it needs to be changed, right? And then you've got Labor saying, no, we need to add sexual discrimination in there as well.
Yeah.
Right?
So yeah, I mean it
is laughable. Like what is happening is that you've got a Liberal Prime Minister who has no fucking idea how to like prosecute any case whatsoever. I'm sorry, but that's the truth about Turnbull. On anything. Right? This like I'm sitting there and going like, you can give Turnbull the keys to the kingdom. You can literally give him everything needed. You've got the judiciary on board. You've got the drafters of the bill on board. You've got Gillian Triggs on board, right? And he still can't pass the compromise solution, right? And that should tell everyone about how hopeless Malcolm Turnbull is.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like he hasn't even made the case. So like, I mean,
no, but he should be out there making the case.
I mean, Abbott's the worst. The worst.
No. Let me
Abbott,
make it perfectly clear. I'm not supporting Abbott. Abbott would be even worse.
No.
He would have some. Yeah.
No. I'm going to say he actually did a worse thing because he said before the election, we're going to make this happen, and then he completely squibbed. So like at least Turnbull didn't come to the Prime Ministership saying, oh, we're going to reform 18C. So
no, he actually came to the Prime Ministership saying he won't change it.
Say again?
He said at the in the 2016 election that he wouldn't change it.
Yeah. So like Turnbull came to the Prime Ministership being against any change. It seems the cabinet is not in favour of change. So the fact that he hasn't made the case is like, in my view, neither here nor there. I mean, he can't sell things. I mean, heck, he's the guy who screwed up the Republic referendum. So if you can't sell republicanism in Australia, really you just need to go and do a different job. Like you need to get out of politics. So everything he tries to do is just a repeat of that.
Yeah, Utegate, all of that stuff. Yeah, no.
So like, I mean, the fact that Turnbull isn't selling it doesn't. I don't think that's neither here nor there. I think his weakness is that it's still going. He hasn't able to sort of get rid of it because he just has no control over the party because no one respects him because he's a lightweight.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, I'm sitting here going like, the topic isn't even about racism anymore. It's
it's
about whether the law works or not. And the answer is it doesn't.
Well, yeah, but this is just, and to be fair, this is not just like a lefty thing, but like for both sides, 18C is the culture war. It's the nexus for the culture war. So, you know, for the left, it's allowing this is like allowing Trump to win again. You know, and for the right, this is like we need to fight political correctness. So,
but it doesn't even, like,
to be
yeah,
fair to both sides,
I'm
I think
presenting,
for libertarians,
I'm
like for us
presenting,
libertarians, we think we
Yeah.
take this from like a principled perspective. We say this is a bad law because it impinges people's freedom. Full stop. Like that's kind of the end of it. Like we don't, you know, we're.
Yeah.
I think to be fair to both the,
But
the
even-
right and the
but-
left, it is a culture war. It's the
Yeah.
nexus of the culture war.
but I'm going to even the more nuanced view, right? Like, I'm going further down that thing saying,
How many
does the
levels
law
of nuance
actually-
are you on?
Huh?
How many levels of nuance are you on?
Just,
Like the inception level. He's like the dream, the dream.
I don't know. I lost count at about 6. But the point is,
He's gonna wash up on like the shores of like a Japanese castle and just gonna be all weird.
Yeah.
He's gonna lose all his memory.
yeah, but it'll be like 18C plus it everywhere.
Yeah.
No metaphor or something.
No, but I mean, like, even if you go to that nuance level, right, and you want to take a look at, you want to ask that question: is this law working? Right? You have the experts saying it's not.
Yep.
Right? Why then would you insist? Right? You have no backing anymore. You can't appeal to the authority of the people who wrote that law. You can't appeal to the authority of the people prosecuting that law. Right?
Yep.
So you're going on gut instinct, right? Mm-hmm. And my point is, when you're at that stage, you've just got to admit, you just want to see Bolt in prison. That's what's going on here, right?
Like just to sort of, that's the same thing. Like find one expert that actually supports the drug war. Find one serious, credible expert who says the drug war is working. All the experts, all the people, you know, like all the people who actually look at evidence would say it doesn't work. I mean, it's true all the time in politics, where it's like, okay, if you look at evidence, if you look at logic, you say this doesn't work, and then we do this other thing because that's how politics operates.
Evidence-based policy, not very often based on evidence.
Yeah, never. I mean, politics is never based on evidence. Even when it looks like it's based on evidence, it's not based on evidence, because politics does not work on evidence. It's not logical. It's not rational. It's always emotion. It's always, because that's just how you sell stuff. Like, because people don't give a crap. And you know, for all the reasons that we've said before, we don't blame them because there's no reason to give a crap. So
yeah, fair point.
On that
Fair
depressing point, I think we've. Is there anything else you want
We've
to say about
exhausted.
ANC?
No,
Okay.
I've said everything I wanted to say.
So I'm going to steal the opportunity to steal from one of my favorite podcasts, which is The Fifth Column, where they have Some Idiot Wrote This. And because you have Some Idiot Wrote This, Some Idiot wrote about how changes to penalty rates is going to reduce government revenue and how that's a terrible thing. So do you
Oh
want to jump on
yes!
that?
Oh my God! Yes, it wasn't some idiot.
Well,
it was the Australia Institute,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The
they're
big
the-
left wing
they're-
think
yeah.
tank. Yeah, they're the idiot. So they basically said, and they made my point. Like I made this point when the penalty rate discussion was starting, right? That penalty rates are basically a giant cash grab, right, by the government. And anyone who's ever worked a lot of penalty rates, like 6 weeks in a row where you've done the Sunday shift, and then you've gone back to your normal rotation. Anyone who's done that will notice, right? Hey, why is my paycheck not as large as it should be after that Sunday shift, right? And the answer is because when you get that Sunday shift, it's pushed you up into the next tax bracket, right? Now the solution.
Oh, I didn't know
No, so you didn't know that? Okay, so maybe I'm just a little more observant than some people. But yeah, effectively.
I don't get out of my room too much.
But
So
effectively,
you're a libertarian then.
But effectively, the Australia Institute has said that cutting the penalty rates to 75% from 250 to 175% would result in a massive tax loss for the government, right? And I sat there going like, hang on, you are actually arguing that the most vulnerable people in society need to be taxed more, right? Like just going from there. Keep in mind, these people pay more tax, right? and then get it back at the end of the year. And Labor's entire, and if you ever talk to a single person in Labor, they will go like, yeah, but they just get it back at the end of the year. And I'm going like, well, that is the most inefficient way to do it, right? You are now paying a bureaucrat to fucking give someone back money they shouldn't have been taxed in the first place. Now, I'm not saying that you don't
interest either as well,
and they don't get interest on it.
You know, so you
Yeah.
actually are losing money. If you got that money and put it in the bank, you'd make more money.
And yeah, and I'm saying like these, your words, you said these are the most vulnerable people in society. Are you telling me that this is the system you want to apply? You want to take money from them when they're living week to week on this stuff, right? And give it to them at the end of the year and say, hey, our bad, but here's your cash now.
Yeah.
Right? And it's really silly. And I basically said at the time, what we need to do is opt for what New Zealand did, right? New Zealand went through a massive IR regime change in 2013, where they basically gave anyone who had penalty rates the option of taking the penalty rate or an RDO system, right? So the RDO system basically says you work 1 hour, you get another hour off, right? You'll still get paid for that hour, you just get to take a day off somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? Much better system, because what it does is it allows you to smooth out your pay cycle, right? So, like, yes, I worked Sunday, but I don't feel like working on Tuesday, right? Or something like that. So effectively, then you end up working a 6-day week. It smooths out, the next week. So instead of like working 5 days with 1 day with high pay and another 5 days with, normal pay, you get to smooth it out so that it like evens out across the entire year. It avoids that problem where they jump up the next tax bracket and they don't really have to sit there until the end of the year. Now, the response I've got from Labor people is, oh, they can go to their union and argue for that. And I'm sitting there going like, why the fuck would they have to go to the union? Yeah. They can negotiate that themselves. It is written in New Zealand law, right? And then they're like, well, you can do the same thing here. And I'm like, well, no, because Fair Work Australia has to sign it off as under their no disadvantage test.
And unions are basically the gatekeeper. So if they don't want to do that, if they don't think that's in the union's interest, they don't have to do it. I mean, it's not like you can go start up another union and say, well,
I've actually tried starting up another union.
Yeah.
And
if you're a retail worker, it's not like you can say, well, I don't like the shop distributed Allied union, which is like a massive frigging union. Like, it's one of the biggest unions in the country. It's not like you can say, well, I'm just going to do my own thing. They'll be like, we don't care. Leave us then.
And actually, and that's actually one of the biggest problem with unionism in Australia. It's not your choice of unions, right? It is, you basically have a choice of the union that they've said you can go join and no union. And that's actually another part of Fair Work Australia that needs to be changed up. Here's the thing. Libertarians are not opposed to unionism. And this is one thing that I get really annoyed about. It's voluntary association. I have no problem with people coming up with effectively a pricing cartel for labor. That is not a problem for me, right? In fact, I would probably like to deal with that, if I was running a business, right? Because then I don't have to sit there and negotiate 20 different contracts, right? I can just negotiate the one contract. In fact, it's actually that's pretty much the history of unionized labor. That's how it started. People wanted to, set up contracts with 100 workers where they pay them all the same.
Yep.
Right. All of that aside, right? The problem is effectively that this particular report pointed out something that everybody has been saying for a long time, and that is that basically the penalty rates are just a colossal cash grab, right? They are. Underlying, that is what's happening, right? Yes, I would like to see those workers get more money. I don't have a problem with it, like to say that they should be paid more for Sunday. It's not a big deal, right? And, it's so culturally ingrained in Australia. Shoppies have been finding ways around it. They shorten hours. They do a whole bunch of things to get around it so that it doesn't, bankrupt them. But what would be better is if we gave these workers more flexibility as to how they can collect that money. And that's something that the Labor Party and the union seem dead against. And I personally would like to call them out on that shit.
All right, well, we're just about to run out of time. I want to do a quick "Some Idiot Wrote This" since we're using some other podcaster's gimmick. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to call out Nick Dryenfirth from The Monthly, who said that essentially he has an article called "Once We're Conservatives." It came out on the 23rd, so it came out just a few days ago. and basically says that the Liberal Party has been captured by hardcore libertarianism. And I quote, let me quote
I
the article.
wish.
Indeed,
I wish.
the brouhaha over Section 18C signals that the Liberal Party is no longer home to mainstream conservatism, but is embracing increasingly rigid, arguably libertarian form of political liberalism that trades in abuse as well as virtue-signaling rhetoric. And for this thing, you are a colossal knob, Nick Dreyfus, because there is nothing further from the truth than the Liberal Party having anything to do with libertarianism. I'm surprised he didn't get in an Ayn Rand jab there, because that seems to be the go-to term of abuse amongst particularly lefties. So yes, you're a knob, Nick Dreyfus. And on that wonderful revelation, we're going to bring it to a close this week. Thank you, Connor, for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll be back again next week. Don't forget you can like and share and subscribe all of our the podcast, as well as we're on YouTube. Make sure you go to our new YouTube channel, which is actually
I was going to say.
Taking Liberties Radio. See, I remember this stuff because I'm a quality host. This is why you love me. Go to our new channel. Make sure you subscribe, and then you get all the updates. And yeah, we'll be back again next week.
And for anyone who's wondering what the new channel is, just follow the link on this video, because it'll probably get you there.
Yeah. Well, it's Taking Liberties Radio. You can look for it, search it on YouTube.
Probably can.
All right. We're done.